Koto, and welcome to South Pacific Muscle. And tonight we're joined by the lovely Sheena-Jayne Martin, IFBB Pro and 2 times Olympian. Awesome to have you here, Sheena.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're really lucky to have you on board. And it's been a long time. Since I've seen you, so really good to see you.
It has been quite a long time.
Yeah.
It's been about 6 hours since I've seen you.
Did you see me this morning?
Yeah.
Oh, gold, small little world. Look, she is a fantastic athlete, and I guess, testament is that she's been on that Olympia stage twice, and I've seen her in her Olympia tracksuit pre-competition, so that was really cool. But also, I guess this is a case of brains behind the beauty, because there's a whole lot of background that we want to get into that's might really blow some people away as to just how switched on some of our top competitors really are. And Sheena, obviously an ex-lawyer of all things.
Yeah, I was a lawyer by the time I was 21, I think. I went to university straight out of high school, and I thought I was doing what every young woman should do, go and get the good job, tick off the things off the list that mum says you have to do. So yeah, I went straight to university, did an honours law degree. I was an overachiever even back then. I was like doing university and then teaching group fitness on the side as like my side hustle. So that's really what started me in the fitness community in general, was that group fitness. But then I went on to work as a commercial lawyer for 4.5 years. So yeah, graduated, moved to the North Island, and yeah, did 4.5 years of general commercial practice, and even spent a year at the biggest law firm in Auckland doing specialised commercial property, which was horrific, I will have you know.
Wow.
And yeah, I wasn't happy. I didn't enjoy my job. I wasn't passionate. I was just stressed. And there's a big difference between being, I guess, stressed about something you're passionate about, and then the empty kind of stress that is literally just toxic and unhealthy. And that was what it was for me. It wasn't at all that I wasn't capable. I could have been a great lawyer, but I didn't enjoy my job. I hated my job to the point where I actually felt physically sick about going to work. So that is when I got to the point where I wanted to become a personal trainer. I wanted to change people's lives. And I became a lawyer because I wanted to change people's lives. But I realized that I was actually just helping rich guys get richer, and I wasn't actually making any meaningful difference whatsoever. And that was really like the crunch point for me with leaving law. It was just that I knew that it wasn't going to be something that was going to be fulfilling for me. So I re-qualified in exercise and nutrition, and I started personal training at Les Mills. So I took quite a leap. I bought my own apartment, so I had a mortgage to pay, and I had a lot of people telling me that I was absolutely crazy to, leave my job as a lawyer, which is, so prestigious and so important, and go and be a personal trainer. Like, people couldn't believe that I would do that. But yeah, I've made a couple of those decisions in my life, and that was one of them. And yeah, it was definitely a turning point for me. And yeah, I was a personal trainer for about 3 years. I was at Les Mills until the point where I was traveling too much competing, and I ended up just shifting to solely online coaching at that point, because it just wasn't making sense to be at Les Mills anymore. But that's kind of how I went from university to lawyer to fitness.
I've got to say, and excuse my lack of eloquence, but what a set of lady balls to fucking go, right, I'm walking out of a commercial law career and I'm off and I'm going to do personal training, and next minute, fuck, we're a bikini pro.
Yeah, I mean, so I was still working as a lawyer when I won my pro card. Yep. But I was really new to the sport, because I literally turned pro 5 months after my first show. So like, I did my first show.
Yep.
And then 5 months later, I was a pro, and I barely even knew what the hell was like. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, to be honest. I was so new to the sport that, but I did have the chance to go and compete at the Arnold Amateur in Ohio, that was my third show. So I did the Waikato Champs, my very first show, and I came fourth. And Mo said on stage, a smile goes a long way, because I was like, no smile, just like totally terrified.
Yeah.
And I obviously didn't smile because I came fourth. And then I got some posing help and got some confidence. And 3 weeks later, I won the nationals. And it was myself and Bree that were the two height class winners. So it was us for the overall, and Bree won, and she won her pro card. And I, for coming runner-up, I guess, had the opportunity to go and compete at the Arnold Amateur in Ohio, which was an amazing experience. And yeah, I came second over there in this huge class of like 50 people. And the girl that beat me went on to win the overall in her pro card. So that was like, holy shit, like I actually might be able to do really good at this thing. Like,
this was like a real exponential from coming fourth at the Waikatos and a matter of months later,
second at the Arnold.
Second at the Arnold Ohio's. Of like, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then literally 2 weeks later, I did the Pro-Am here in New Zealand and won my pro card, and walked off stage, put down my medal, put down my flowers, and walked back on stage with Ashley Cartwasser and India Polino. Like, holy shit. I'm a pro and I'm standing beside my idols on stage. How did this even happen? And it was a bit of a whirlwind journey. It really was.
Far out.
I gotta jump in here because this is fascinating, and it's really interesting I'm really interested in what drew you into law, and then I kind of get what took you back out of law. But what's jumping out at me at the moment is like, what changes did you make? Was it about presentation? Was it about what physically did you change between that fourth at the Waikato and then the Nationals and then the Arnolds? How did you look different or present yourself differently that made that big jump in success?
Yeah, a lot of it was just like, before my first show, I literally did an 8-week prep. So I had a pretty good physique to start with, and that was not from strength training, really. It was from teaching group fitness, and I started ballet when I was 3. So literally from the age of 3 to 23, I was a dancer. And then from the age of 8 to 23, I guess I was a competitive horse rider as well. So like all of my body parts that I'd use for my sports, so for dancing, so like everyone asks what I do for my calves, and I say, start ballet when you're 3 and you'll be good. Like, absolutely nothing other than the fact that I've done ballet my whole life. Same with my quads. Like, I've got dominant quads, and I've actually had to do a whole lot of work to shrink them from throughout my pro career, and that's from ballet as well. So
I saw one of your posts that talked about overtraining your quads in a deficit to get to the strength.
And then of course, like, my hamstrings are really dominant, and that's from horse riding. And my back and shoulders developed really, quickly when I started training. And that's, again, I think that's from horse riding, and also, posterior chain muscles from dancing. But my glutes are like my one thing that have always been my sort of lagging muscle group. And that's simply because I literally started training 8 weeks before I did my first show, like seriously training. And so, 5 months later, I was a pro, but my glutes hadn't done all the work that the rest of my body had done for like 20 years. So, but I've been working hard on them. So still working.
The ballet must have created one hell of a work ethic, because like my hat comes off to any girl who does ballet to any reasonable level, because those girls work. So you must have learned a thing or two from a mental perspective that allowed you to kind of be, I don't know, a tier up from someone else sort of coming into the sport that hadn't had that kind of discipline background.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Like, dancing was a huge part of my life, even to the point where I actually went to boarding school specifically to move to a bigger city for dancing, because I was dancing every single night after school, and that was when I was in high school, like my last few years of high school. But it was a huge amount of discipline, definitely, even like from the age of 3, you know, all the practice. And even just, I think, honestly, I think dancing is the most incredible thing for a girl to do growing up, because it teaches you that posture, like stage presence, how to hold yourself, bodily awareness, all of that. And even as a coach, I notice the difference just hugely when I'm teaching posing. I can tell immediately if someone's either a dancer or a gymnast. I can pick it literally in 5 minutes working with someone. But yeah, I guess I'd never done team sports. So bodybuilding for me, like I was always my own team growing up, you know. I did dancing and that was me and me. And I did horse riding and that was, you know, me and my horse, but that was it. And I never really did team sports. So I guess, you know, I've always been really driven and had that work ethic of, you know, it's up to me to get myself where I want to be, and you show up and you do it. So yeah, I guess that probably crossed over pretty well into bodybuilding.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I know you want to ask about training.
Yeah, I actually wanted to, well, yeah, all right, we'll go there first. And then I'm really interested in how you built up your sort of online presence as well. But we'll go training. Do you have sort of general training philosophies, how you either train yourself or your clients that sort of are really dear to you? Do you go high intensity, high volume? Do you prefer functional work? What's your sort of general training philosophy?
I mean, I have general philosophies in terms of particularly, I mean, training competitors or training someone for bikini, for example. You know, if you want to create a bikini shape, it's important to train a certain type of way. For example, you're trying to create as much of an hourglass as possible. So you want to avoid doing anything that's going to potentially thicken your waist. And you're wanting to add an upward taper and you're wanting to add a lower taper. So I mean, it's different again for lifestyle clients who are coming to me, you know, with an overall health and wellness goal. But for a bikini competitor, you're literally being judged on your shape. So your training should revolve completely around creating that shape if that's what you're training for. So it's really different for everyone because everyone's starting with a different canvas, right? So you're trying to sculpt a particular hourglass shape, but your starting point of your material is different for every single person. So generally speaking, I would say that, you know, a bikini competitor should train their whole body. You know, there's a bit of controversy about girls training chest. If your implants don't allow it, okay, don't do it. But if your implants do allow it, and mine do because they're above the muscle, then I think it's good because it adds a lot of dimension to the front of your shoulder, and it adds a completeness that you don't get if you don't train your chest. You can end up looking hollow through the front of your body. Obviously, I mentioned earlier my quads. Like for me, I've never had to train quads, and at one point I had to actually overtrain them, basically force them into atrophy by training them fasted at high volume every morning. And that was simply because I had more muscle mass on my legs than they were awarding in bikini. So if I wanted to fit into the bikini framework, I had to change my shape. And I could have just gone, oh no, this is the way my body's built. But if you're a serious athlete and you want to be seriously competitive, then you got to do what you got to do to make it work. So
That sounds absolutely brutal. Overtraining quads of all things when you're in a deficit to try and shrink them. I'm just thinking, oh my God, that must have been horrible. Was it
followed by fasted cardio? Yeah.
Yeah, must have been.
I mean, I was basically just training at a high volume. I would just do, you know, like a handful of exercises, high volume, and I was just literally going just so my legs were just constantly on fire. And then I would do that, and then I'd go and get on the Stairmaster and do, you know, an hour of Stairmaster with the weight and the balls on my feet. So I'm still just hammering my quads. And I mean, I shrunk my legs in half, but I mean, there's some transformation pictures I posted from that kind of time frame before floating around on the internet somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I literally did shrink my quads down dramatically from what they were before. So yeah, it wasn't pretty necessarily, but it worked.
And conversely, you're still trying to build your glutes up. So what do you do for your glutes?
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, train really isolated. And again, like for me right now, I have to train quite isolated with my glutes, but I also have to be careful not to get my hamstrings too much because I'm very hamstring dominant. Like my hamstrings just pop. Like by accident. I don't even have to try. And, you know, some girls work for freaking years and they can't get that hamstring to pop. Well, 20 years of horse riding, it'll do it. But, you know, so I have to be careful that I'm really isolating the glutes. So, you know, my training philosophy for me is going to be different from my training philosophy for any other client, because, you know, every client that comes to me, I'm starting with a different sculpture and I'm trying to make it the most like the hourglass possible within the genetic limitations of what I'm working with. So, I mean, I'm an artist, I guess, more than anything. And so that's really where I approach training from. I came into it as a dancer, and I kind of, yeah, it's the way I approach it.
Interesting, because like you're very, I guess, detail conscious and all those things, analytical, that I'd expect from someone that was a lawyer. But at the same time, the arty side of you does come through, and the way you talk about the body and sculpting it and changing it, because if you're a competitor, you need to look, you know, and really addressing it like that, you know, it's something that you only hear people that are really in that top sort of level of the game start talking like that. And it's really cool to hear you talk like that, because it makes me think, oh, I've got to think a bit more like that, because I don't. I'm just going to push the weights and that kind of thing. But to go, well, actually, if I look at it, you know, my traps, if I can, don't use your traps for anything, you know, and that kind of thing like that, or even pull back certain things, and to be able to go, this is my bit of clay, and this is what the end product's got to look like. Which bits am I pushing and which bits am I prodding? And it's really interesting to kind of get that, you know, that kind of approach to it, because you're a kind of contradiction. It's a real interesting one. It's cool. I love it.
I am a contradiction.
Yeah.
It's
neat.
Yeah.
It's interesting contrasting with the chat we had with Katia, because she had obviously different strengths and weaknesses there, and, you know, bikini competitor as well, still looking for the same end product essentially with respect to that X frame and that shape and so on, but with different strengths and weaknesses. Her training week, I imagine, would look quite different than yours, but you're both heading in the same sort of direction from different angles, I suppose. So it's interesting to contrast.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's exactly it. I mean, it is completely different for everyone. And I mean, she's got a different background again to me. She's a gymnast, her background. So yeah, she's no doubt got different strengths and weaknesses to work on. But yeah, I mean, obviously there are certain training philosophies that are going to carry through into everything. You know, progressive overload. Okay, that's simple. But if we're talking bodybuilding, then we're talking art now. So it's, you know, we're going to have to get into more detail than just progressive overload. So, I mean, when I'm creating programs for clients, I'm creating a program, for example, I don't know, they're training glutes, and I'm creating a program that's going to hit the muscle from all of these different angles that I want them to hit it from. But I program in, you know, tempo and all of those details as well. So they have a really complete picture of what the feeling they're trying to get, I guess, is just as important as just the reps. Yeah.
That must be tough to do online, to really get that sort of degree of detail and try and get that mind muscle link and the feel across to someone via email or via Zoom or via a piece of paper. Must be really tough.
Well, I'm a qualified lawyer, you see, so I'm qualified in using words to convey a message.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I do my programs. I include like a lot of explanatory notes, and yeah, I'm a pretty detailed person. So yeah, I seem to do okay. Created some good products so far.
I'm going to just sidetrack for a minute, because you do a bit of writing as well, and you know, I really enjoy your writing.
Thank you.
Very talented. So you have a separate Instagram page for your writing?
Yeah, I do, and I haven't actually been posting as much on there lately. It kind of it comes in waves when I'm sort of, you know, in that good creative flowing energy. Then these ideas come to me. And this year's kind of been in and out of that. I've been back studying this year as well, so it's been like a bit of well, I mean, obviously it's been a completely random year for everyone, but yeah, it's definitely been a random mixture of this year for me.
Just to add stuff to the mix, you've gone back to university. What's happening there?
Yeah, I have. So I've gone back to university. I'm studying postgraduate psychology. So I'm currently doing a graduate diploma in psychology, which is basically a bridging qualification. So because I already have my law qualification, I can basically pick up the final level papers of psychology, which has literally meant I haven't been at uni for 11 years, but I also haven't done any maths or any science since I was in sixth form in 2004. 2004, Nate. It was a long time ago. So I literally have had to catch myself up to like 300 level papers of maths and science and psychology. But yeah, so it was pretty challenging, and a lot of it was
how good is psychology though? Like,
Yeah.
you've already gone up like 10 notches in Mike's book because he's a psychology geek. And I think if I'd ever went back to varsity, psychology, without a doubt. It's fascinating, eh?
It is. And well, I mean, it's really my life experience and my path that's led me back to psychology. You know, same time I stopped competing, I was in like a very challenging phase in my life, which I was living in America by myself, and the only place I had to go was inward and a lot of internal personal development work, and it led me to asking a lot of questions, and that's what's led me back to studying psychology, really, and sort of shifted the direction I want to take my whole business. So I'm kind of, in a transition phase at the moment, but yeah.
I can see you being a high performance sports psychologist or mental skills coach, or because so many of those things we kind of dabble in anyway because of the coaching aspect. But then to know the theory behind it and a ton more detail, it opens up a world of opportunities for you. So fuck, I look forward to seeing that. Yeah, cool. But jealous.
The younger, prettier Dave Neath.
Yeah, well, a lot younger and a lot prettier than Dave Neath, but that'll be Is that the particular area you want to kind of go in, or are you clinical, or? Yeah.
No, not particularly. I want to basically get into, I guess, like self-leadership coaching, I guess, teaching people to be more self-aware, being able to become the observer of their own beliefs, emotions, thoughts, behaviors, actions, so that they can then actually take control of their life, actually get out of the mind.
Sounds almost like psychotherapy rather than psychology.
Yeah, well, I would say it's spiritual psychology, and I'm studying psychology because that's the only way to get a bit of paper that says I know stuff about this. But I mean, it's really not what's taught in psychology at university, because there's no way to scientifically prove consciousness, is there? Because that's, you're testing what you're talking about. So it's interesting, but I'm doing neuropsychology, developmental psychology, social psychology, health psychology, and I've basically been, I guess you could say, using my clients that I'm working with one-on-one as almost like studies in how can I teach this person to actually become such a leader of themselves that they can actually undo their past conditioning, their past behaviors, their things that are self-sabotaging, their thought patterns, because essentially that's what holds everyone back from achieving their health and fitness goals or their goals as a competitor. It's really yourself, and most of the time it's your conditioned patterns that you've picked up through your however many years you've been alive. But until people actually become aware of that and can even see that, there's nothing they can do about it. Once you actually develop that skill of becoming the observer and becoming aware of what's going on in your own world, and this applies so far beyond health and fitness goals, it applies to literally everything. You literally can't be a self-leader if you can't be objective and actually step out of your own little.
It really empowers people to take control of the things that they couldn't control or even understand in the past, and fucking get shit done, in a very,
realize that sometimes you have to accept some shit and just get shit done, because you can't change what's happened, and a lot of people live far too much in the past or in the future and not enough time here.
I mean,
I like what you said about being an observer of your own sort of patterns. It's sort of in transactional analysis, it's game theory. They kind of people get caught in the same loop of doing the same things and
People
unconsciously
spend their whole
trying
life in the
to
loop
fulfill
doing
the
the
same
same
outcome. To sort of step back from that a little bit. Oh, I'm doing that again. Right? Maybe I could just step outside this loop for a little bit.
Yeah.
Isn't it cool when you do catch yourself out doing something like that and you go, caught myself again.
Yeah.
And then you're able to move forward from that, and it's kind of a
But when you can
empowering
observe
feeling.
yourself non-judgmentally and actually have a laugh at yourself, then it becomes pretty empowering.
I find I have to laugh at myself, otherwise I'm flying in the face of public opinion. So you've got a pretty significant social media reach. I think it was 149,000 followers on Instagram, was it? Something like that.
Yeah.
And I just checked out your website before, the Sheena-Jayne Fitness online coaching website, just had a brief overview. Did you have a premeditated plan to use social media in that way? Did you have a social media plan? Did you get any guidance from anybody on that? Is it something that just sort of happened and evolved, or?
No, I didn't, and I to be honest, I don't feel like I really do that well at social media. I feel like I could, for what I've done, I probably could have a lot more following if I was really like savvy and had, I don't know, the marketing people that do the fancy shit or whatever. But I really just want to share my story, and that's what social media has always been about for me. I started social media, I think, around the time I started competing, and it really just evolved. I just kept sharing. It was just a personal sort of blog to begin with. I started sharing my journey, and I guess I started doing photo shoots as well around this time when I started competing. So I was creating more content, but it wasn't really, I'd say, more, even when I was personal training, all that, it's probably just been gradually evolving with me, I would say, more than anything. It did definitely, I've actually lost followers since I stopped competing because I'm not like that exciting anymore, I guess. So it was like when I was flying high, like winning the New York Pro or like doing 2 times Olympia and 5 times Arnold Classics, everyone wants to follow you and see what's going on. When you've gone back to school and you're studying psychology, you're not so exciting anymore. So people won't you're just not that hot shit anymore. But I might give them something to get excited about soon.
Oh, just as that the teaser, all the teaser will get.
No, I did tell Nate I am thinking about getting back on stage next year. And I was thinking it was going to be more like March to May, as that's usually when the Pro-Am was, and that's when Mo was talking about possibly doing Pro Bikini. And yeah, it's been over 2 years since I competed, and I would say I didn't leave at all on a bad note. I left on a pretty tough note. I missed out on my 3rd Olympia by 1 point. That was where it ended for me. I did do one more show after that, just to be like a good sport and not be seen to be like, screw this, I'm out, because I didn't qualify for the Olympia. But I had done 33 pro shows in 4.5 years, basically without a break.
So say that again. 33 pro shows
in
4.5 years.
Yeah.
Fuck, I can't even comprehend that.
So look, Nate, when I do things, I don't do things by halves, you see.
Fuck, you're an overachiever, aren't you?
So, I mean, by that point, it was really time for my body to have a break. And then, of course, I, moved home to New Zealand. I never said that I would never compete again. If anyone's ever asked me, I've always said, if the time is right, I'm never going to say never. If it comes up for me that I feel like doing this again, then maybe I will. And I've been doing a lot of, all of my internal work, my personal development work. I'm back studying. I feel like I've sort of, I guess those areas of my life, I think I wasn't really developing myself in, like I was probably not developing myself intellectually, for example, whilst I was competing, because I was literally tunnel vision. Literally for 4.5 years, that was all I did. It was just such a focus. And
I put a picture up when I was in shape competing, and I put a picture and said, even though my body looks like whatever, $1 million or whatever it was, I said, I've got a 10-cent mind and a fucking worthless soul or something. And it was just like, it was kind of a piss take, but it was kind of a reflection of when you're throwing everything in, like you have to do, like to compete, and particularly at the level that you have, you know, with the Arnolds and the Olympias, you know, it doesn't get any better than that. But to do that comes at a certain cost in terms of, you know, having a balance and looking after your spirituality, your intellectual need, you know, some of those higher level needs, because you're all focused on stage. So, you know, it's probably been quite nice for you moving off and actually being able to develop in some of those areas that you probably wanted to but couldn't at the time, because you're very aware.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I knew that I had those areas to develop in. You know, I think I had spent my whole life still just trying to become the person I thought I was meant to become, you know, the lawyer. And then she gets into bodybuilding, and then, oh, she's got to make it to the top, and then she's got to keep going, and then she can do better and better. And that was basically my life for that whole point. And, you know, when you stop, I mean, I think, to be honest, stopping bodybuilding when you've been doing it that much and for that long is almost harder than keeping going, because it's like if you have, and I think bodybuilding can become actually a really unhealthy sport for this reason. So many people, they form their identity on themselves as a bodybuilder, and particularly if you're forming your identity on yourself as a bodybuilder and yourself as a bodybuilder in stage condition, you're screwing yourself, because you're never going to feel good enough. You're always going to feel like you've got to keep getting back to that or whatever, or keep competing. And, you know, quite frankly, I couldn't have kept doing that I couldn't have kept going forever. I had to have a break at some point, but it was hard.
You know, it's kind of something that most people think about perhaps being more associated with a woman. But I noticed the other day, a guy that I noticed just competed said he's really struggling with his shape that he's in now versus what he was like on stage. And he put a photo up, an off-season photo, and I thought, fuck, you look amazing. And I said to him, look, you know, you look better than 95% of people. Half the people in the world would kill to look like that. But you know what? That doesn't matter. I said, you're so much more than the physique that you've got. That's a fraction of who you are as a person. And I said, I think I had this conversation with you, Mike. I said, I kind of lost myself for sort of 4 or 5 years because I was Nate the bodybuilder. And anyone who, they said, oh, do you know Nate? Oh, you mean Nate the bodybuilder? Because that's what I've done for 20 years. And when I tore my quads off my kneecaps, then suddenly I was no longer Nate the bodybuilder. What was I, you know? And it was like,
Who am I now?
You know, yeah, fully. And, you know, having gone through that, it's really interesting. I guess I was kind of lucky because, you know, being from street sports, I didn't give a shit what I looked like year round, so I didn't have to worry about that. I just cared when there was a trophy, and, you know, that's all I wanted to do on stage on that day. Otherwise, I didn't care. But I think for a lot of people, they form so much on their body image, and the sport itself can almost be a bit of a crutch to block out some of the things you don't want to deal with. Or
very much be someone's way of not dealing with their personal issues or their relationship issues, or what they are not ready to deal with in other areas of their life, because they can easily say, oh no, got to do the bodybuilding, and just put their blinkers on. And I think that can definitely happen.
It can be a positive though. Like, you know, I know guys that have had depression that their doctors have said, just grab something. And one of my friends went, fuck it, I'm going to get a pro card. And he just locked in, got a pro card and all the rest of it. And kind of it gave him enough time to focus on something, forget about all the stuff that was going on, and then kind of come out the other side and kind of realize that he had time to work on all these things now that he wasn't a pro bodybuilder. And I guess for me, you know, being in a bit of a rut and all the rest of it, I went, I've just got to do bodybuilding, and just bury myself in that. And I went, oh no, it's not all about bodybuilding, but it gave me enough of a distraction for a period of time that it was healthy. But I think it's that balance of
it's all about the intention behind it. I think it can be really healthy, it can be really unhealthy. It's just like anything, whether you label it good or bad is up to you, and that is all the mindset. And, you know, bodybuilding gets a bad rap for, you know, creating eating disorders. Well, actually, I had an eating disorder for 6 years before I started bodybuilding, and bodybuilding saved me from my eating disorder because it gave me some structure and something to work purposefully towards. And I had to fuel my body properly. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to build muscle. I actually had to take fueling my body seriously. And that was the only way I was going to be able to do it. So I did. I committed to it. And Yeah, I mean, I think in all cases, it is completely the mindset that you're going into. It's, you create your reality up here in your own mind. So if you're using bodybuilding as an escape, that could be either positive or negative. It's completely up to you. And so, I mean, that comes back to self-leadership.
The difficult thing for especially women is they start cutting up for a show or losing some weight, and everybody's telling them how amazing they look. And so they start associating, oh, lighter, smaller means better, and they just kind of reinforce that sort of association. And so when they start putting a little bit of weight back on, I remember after my first show, kind of going, oh my God, I'm getting fat. You can only see the top two of my abs. I went, hang on a second, you can still see the top two of my abs. Too badly, I have to kind of get a bit of a reality check, back to kind of what normal is. So that's the difficulty, I suppose, with women. And I got it a little bit too, as people were saying, oh, you look amazing when I cut up for a competition last year. That just creates that positive reinforcement, being smaller, being leaner, and then trying to stay that way, which isn't attainable or healthy, really.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I have clients who, do struggle with that, but I think the more that you are sure of yourself within yourself, and you understand that stage lean is not maintainable, like some people don't come into the sport for the right reasons. They come into the sport because they're like, oh, that'll force me to get in that amazing shape. Well, guess what? You ain't going to stay there. Sorry about it. But that's not going to be healthy. You'd want to try to stay there. Then you're going to end up with
the outcome orientated rather than process orientated. They love the outcome, don't love the process.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, all those, people that come into bodybuilding won't last in bodybuilding if they don't love the process, because you really have to love the process. But yeah, I think there needs to be, I mean, a little bit of that is just society in general. There's still a stigma around weight, and there's still an idea that smaller is better, and that's still probably something that society needs to deal with as a whole, I would say.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's like, it's like particularly one thing I really want to get you to comment on, actually, because exit plans from dieting, coming out the other side. Tell us about the importance of that, because I think that, so many people are set up to fail because they're prepped into a show and it's on your way and all those bad things happen. Like, what's the ideal process for, particularly, I guess, for a woman dieting into a show and coming out the other side? What sort of things should be happening to make it
I mean, the ideal process in terms of, look, the ideal process is to achieve the best possible physical result with the littlest possible detriment to the body, basically. It's keeping cardio as low as you can, keeping calories as high as you can, making sure, I like to keep, a good balance of macronutrients. You're not cutting out anything in particular, making sure, I mean, it's really important that you have a client not cutting down like this. You don't want to be crash dieting. You want to basically have them dieting steadily enough that they can, with small incremental changes, you can see consistent results, and get them into that condition. The harsher your diet is, then the more repercussions you're going to have in terms of your health and in terms of the inability to sustain it, basically. So I always try and have clients working with me for basically as long as I can work with them for before a show. Basically, the longer you give me working with you, the better you're going to look. That's basically how it works. And I mean, that can include time for actually building muscle and actually creating the shape. I've had girls work with me for a whole year before we even get on stage. Yep. And that's really important. Like, if you think I just want to do a show, well, doing a 12-week diet's, this goes back to what you're starting with. What is this structure that I'm working with here? But also, how many times have they tried to do a yo-yo diet and already damaged their metabolism, or, whatever. If someone comes to you and they're not eating much and they're already doing a bunch of cardio, you're starting with a much least desirable starting position, you know, where if someone comes to you and they're eating, you know, 3,000 calories a day and they don't do cardio and they've just started working out, well then great, you can have some fun with this because you got a really easy, smooth ride. So everyone is completely different. You know, sometimes you have to diet hard to get into condition, and it really depends on, you know, is this someone who's gunning for their pro card, or is it someone doing their first show? Is this everything to them, or is this something they're doing just for a personal goal? You know, the actual process of doing a competition is different for everyone. So, you know, some people aren't going to want to go through absolute hell for weeks dieting to reach condition, because maybe that's not what it's about for them, is just what I'm saying. But, you know, you will have to work hard to get in condition. Sometimes your body won't respond as well as other times. Ideally, the less often you compete, the better. You know, the more likely you are to get in really good condition, not to have inflammation, not to be, you know, holding water, all of that stuff. You're just more likely to be able to nail your condition if your body's fresh, basically, which includes not doing a hell of a lot of cardio. You know, if you're cruising into a show and you're not overstraining your body, because you're not having to do a lot of cardio because you really did take that long process to get lean slowly and all of that, your body's going to look a whole lot better on stage. You're not going to have all of the inflammation and stuff like that. So slow and steady is going to win the race, as long as you actually land the plane. You know, you've got to actually get lean enough. So can't go too steady. But yeah, again, it's different for everyone. I have my clients check in often weekly, going up to, you know, every twice a week as we get closer, and then it's daily sometimes in the last couple of weeks, and certainly daily in the final week, because you're making adjustments. You know, final days, it's more than once a day often, to make sure that you are making those adjustments. So, I mean, it is really different for everyone, but particularly as a female, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's not going to be detrimental to your hormones. Same for everyone, but I think some girls don't appreciate, and this doesn't just go for competitors though, this really doesn't just go for competitors. There are a hell of a lot of just, you know, gym bunnies. They go to the gym all the time. They just do too much. They don't eat enough. They think that doing more cardio and eating less is the way to get happier or the body of their dreams or whatever it is. That's not the answer to getting the body of your dreams or the happiness that you're looking for. But it's not just bodybuilding, and I think that we have to be careful not to let people say that it's just bodybuilding and give bodybuilding itself a bad name, because it's not just bodybuilding. There's a whole lot of dysfunctional eating and all sorts of unhealthy relationships with food and exercise going on in society, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, this is I think bodybuilding does get a bad rap, and it's almost like shunned a little bit, like the extremist people, but really it can be done in a way that's not going to be detrimental to your health, and you know, it's not the only way you can do detriment to your health, that people do that all by themselves, you know, by all sorts of means.
Yes, we do. Look, I want to have a quick look at your Instagram, just have a quick stalk through that, so bear with me, bring it up.
Sure.
Right, here we go. Sheena-Jayne Fitness, 4,283 posts. Man, you must be a busy person.
Yeah, I mean, someone told me once, see, I don't do the whole like social media fancy thing, but someone told me I have too many posts and I should delete some. But do you know how long that would take? I'm like, far out.
Nobody got time for that.
That's been what, 8 years?
Yeah.
Or 9 years of pretty consistently posting, I guess.
Wicked. So there's
still more than one a day. There's still nearly 2 a day.
No, thanks for the maths. Maths isn't my strong point. You know, I was probably doing up to 2 or 3 a day when I was at my most sort of Instagram influencer, hardcore competitor sort of thing.
Hey, what I do like is that you've done quite a few just recent times, just showing bits of your workouts. It's really cool.
Yeah,
I watched some of your booty ones and that, and I was like, because my coach has just started making me train glutes, and I feel like a bikini girl every time I do it, because I've never done them in my entire life. It goes against everything I've ever done. But no, it's cool. So it's really cool. So Yeah, if people want to kind of see what you do and some of the stuff you're doing, it's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to do 2 of these workouts a week at the moment. So one's usually upper body and one's usually lower body.
Cool. Oh man, I need a videographer to run around the gym after me while I'm in shape. There'll be about 2 weeks of the year that I'll be in shape, so I might just pay someone to follow me for 24 hours a day. It must be cool. Oh, you've done some cool photo shoots too. Who are your favourite photographers to work with?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. I've worked with honestly some of the most amazing. I mean, I've worked with, like Per Bernal, who's like
Oh wow,
famous fitness photographer.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Kai York has to be one of my favorites. I've worked with him a couple of times. I had a six-page spread in Iron Man magazine, which is what that photo shoot was for.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done so many amazing shoots all over the world, traveled all over the world competing and doing shoots.
Must be
And I
cool,
do
like
love doing shoots.
must be cool, like because we're so social media focused, but to get a 6-page spread in a hard copy magazine like Iron Man, that's kind of like I don't know. It's
Yeah, my
special.
goal was to be a cover girl at one point, and I haven't been a cover girl yet. But people don't even make magazines hardly anymore. So
No,
yeah, they're kind of a bit phased out.
you had some really cool. That's cool. What show was that? New York Pro.
That was when I won the New York Pro.
Oh wow! How long ago was that now? Was it
2017.
Man? What year? What year did I see you at the Olympia? 2016, eh?
2016 was my first Olympia, then
Yeah,
2017. Yeah.
that was cool, man. How do you feel like with Olympia coming up? Do you get a bit, like kind of, I miss it because I even miss it after even watching it there. I'm like, I want to go back over. How do you feel?
Yeah, like the atmosphere and just being part of all of that is amazing. But I mean, I will never forget the experience. And hey, I mean, I might have one more in me if I competed again.
But just like,
But
what an achievement to like, it doesn't matter what class you do or what part of bodybuilding. If anyone says I've been on the Olympia stage, I'm like jealous, and I'm like, fuck, I'm envious, but I'm also acutely aware of how much work has to go in for anybody on our planet to get on that Olympia stage. So,
yeah, it almost seems a little bit surreal, to be honest. Like having not competed for, a couple of years, it almost seems, even looking at stage photos, I'm like, holy shit. Oh, that's awesome. Which is obviously, when you see yourself in the mirror every day, it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, I was the first New Zealand bikini pro to compete at the Olympia. So that's kind of my one thing that's like, that's pretty awesome because, literally no one else will be able to say that, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You look really tall when you're in stage condition. You look like you'd be about 5'9", 5'10", and I know you're not.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I'm like 5'5.5".
Yeah.
It's just the illusion's unreal, eh? And I think the woman more so than the men, and the figure girls as well. Like you see them in their tracksuits and that, and you think, oh, they're quite, they're not that big. And when the shirts come off, and all the shape suddenly appears, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's just kind of, I guess, like pocket rockets, but just, just so like the illusion on stage is a lot more than what I think most male bodybuilders put up. We kind of stand here and, if you're big, you're big, and all the rest of it. But I think maybe it's the art of displaying the physique that you guys seem to do. You got a bit more poise and grace than what we do. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it as well as, I guess, that stage presence. You're wanting to actually show your physique in a way that fills up the stage. You're trying to command the attention of everyone in the whole building. It can't be something small. It has to be, and I guess that's the dancer in me again. But it has to be like a big energy that you present on stage, I guess.
What do you think just before you get on stage? What's the thoughts going through your head?
God, I can't remember. I literally can't remember. Yeah, I don't think I think overly before I go on stage. I usually just run through my routine. I probably just watch it all unfold before me. You're usually watching the girls before you. You're standing on the stairs, and I'm more than anything just staying calm and not getting to the point where you're overthinking something at the last minute when there's nothing to think about, is there?
True.
Because you know what you're doing at that point.
Yeah, what's done's done. You can't change anything. You just got to get out and show it. Yeah. Interesting though, because like just you're right. I think stage presence is the word that you guys just nail it at another level than what I think. Occasionally, maybe some of the classic physique boys are starting to probably have something, a similar sort of a presence.
Yeah, I think they're bringing that artistry back.
Yeah. Far out. I could just cruise these photos all day. There's so many cool ones.
Mm-hmm.
Far out. That's what we need to do, boys, is boys get some more photos. But when you get a photo shoot, what's the deal with a photo shoot? Like when you go, like if you like when you win the New York Pro, do you have people line up to take photo shoots of you, or do you still pay for photo shoot? How does all that work?
I mean, there are some photographers that I work with, we collab. So, they shoot me and we both share the images and I don't have to pay them. Yep. Because they're getting exposure through me. But there are some photographers that, I would pay to do a photo shoot with, who are, the best of the best, who, it's all about, I guess, the photographer's position. I am pretty lucky. There are a lot of photographers that would like to shoot with me, just to shoot with me, which, is amazing. And then it's cool that I can share their work with people and hopefully send more people to them for shoots. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate the photos that they do. Just imagine, like, this is kind of like a bit of a strange thought, but let's fast forward 40, 50 years down the track and you got grandkids and they're like, wow, Nana Sheena, look at you. They'll be going, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I'd love to actually get some of my photo shoot images printed. I don't know, I mean, it's art to me again, and like I actually enjoy photo shoots even more than I enjoy being on stage, I guess. It's more my persona, because I'm not really the smiley, bubbly, like on stage you got to be very smiley and showy, but that's not really me. I'm more like the mysterious, doesn't really say much, everyone's wondering what she's thinking kind of person. And I think photo shoots are more me. It's more artistic and real, I guess, for me.
You had a real cool photo. I'm just trying to this is just going off memory. You had some done in a city, and you're on kind of like not scaffolding, but ladders, and there were it was black and whites, and I remember those, and they were amazing photos. They were years ago.
I don't know, maybe Kai York stuff from New York. I'm not sure. Yeah. I've done, honestly, so many photo shoots. I've done probably more photo shoots than I've done shows.
Gold. Wicked, man. Oh, look, I could, as I say, I could sit there for hours just like cruising through, because I love photography, and I think some of the photographers, they capture an image that kind of, like if you're in the sport, you kind of, you see something in that photo, I think, more than what the average person does. So really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely art to me.
Yeah. Definitely you need a big trophy room down there in Dunedin and get a few of those blown up on canvases and in the pool room. Very cool. Right. Hey, probably that time we let you do a bit of shout out to your nearest and dearest and those that have supported you along the way, and anyone you want to give a bit of a shout out to.
Promote anything you want to promote.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to promote my sponsors, Gaspari. I've been with Gaspari for 2.5 years, and I have been with a couple of other brands before them, and just Rich Gaspari is the most amazing dude to work with. He is just such a good guy, and it's like literally like being part of a family. So one of my missions in New Zealand is to build the Gaspari brand more, because it is an amazing brand, and we've got some incredible products, not just for bodybuilders, but overall health products, but it's just not that well known at all in New Zealand. So hopefully I will be flying that flag. And who else do I want to follow? Thanks. Sorry, anyone who's listening to this, thank you for spending the time.
Both you guys. Thanks to both you guys.
Oh, thanks to you guys for chatting to me. No,
both the listeners.
Hey?
Both the listeners. Thanks to both the listeners.
It's been really cool speaking with you, and I'm kind of intrigued as to whether you're going to get on stage or whether you're going to pop up with some, something new with all the psychology and stuff that's going on. So whatever it is.
I definitely am going to pop up with something new with that. And if I'm on stage, it would probably be October in New Zealand, because Mo's going to do Pro Bikini then. Yeah. And I realistically don't know if I would be able to travel before that. Yeah. But I'm studying till June at least anyway. So like up until June, I'm pretty slammed with university, and a whole lot of business stuff going on in the background. So it would probably be realistically October, which is why I'm kind of still saying I think I might, because it's so far away that it's kind of like I'm training right now like I am aiming to improve my physique basically, and only really because I started training hard again and the momentum built and I got motivated because I started seeing changes and I was like, I'm actually really enjoying this, so I might just push my body and see what happens. And that's really where I've got to right now. Awesome.
Look, we'll be following that journey as will many people. So again, thank you, and it's been a pleasure. Always is. And
thank you.
Yeah, no doubt you'll bump into Mike again at Olympic.
No
They
doubt
seem to be there quite a bit, just usually different times.
Yeah, I'm still jealous.
Yeah, now that I've put a face to the name, I'm sure I will.
Awesome. Right, take care, my dear, and thank you, everyone. We will catch up with you later in the week.
Yeah.